So I have with me today Stacy Sato, who is the author of The Missing Link, an adoption memoir, and she's going to be telling us a little bit about herself and her book today. And then on May 31st, we'll be hosting a live virtual webinar with Stacy and any adoptive parents, adoptees, or anyone else interested in adoption will be invited to join and hear more about Stacy's experience as an adoptee. Hi Stacy.
Hi.
Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your relationship with adoption?
Okay, so my name is Stacy Sato, and I'm a mixed race girl who was adopted into a Japanese family when I was 2 months old. And so it was a closed adoption back in 1968. I had a very loving family. I also have an older sister who was adopted 5 years prior to me, and she's Japanese, and my parents who adopted me are Japanese. And so because I'm not Japanese, I'm Hawaiian, Portuguese, Chinese, Filipino, Korean, I always look different than them.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up with a little bit of identity issues, you know, because people would always say, oh, she doesn't look like you.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was 5 or 6, there was an incident where someone came to our house, my mom's acquaintance, and she said, oh, well, you know, who is she? And my mom said, oh, that's my daughter. And I remember vividly the lady said, she doesn't look like you, mm-hmm. to my mom. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I really thought, okay, this is strange. Why wouldn't I look like my parents?
Yeah.
And then when I was 6, my mom shared with me, you know, you didn't grow in my womb, mm-hmm. but, you know, we adopted you, we couldn't have children, mm-hmm. and your birth mother wanted you to have a good life, and so, you know, you are our daughter, and you were chosen, and it was just they were very loving and caring and everything. Mm-hmm. But even with all of that, I became almost fascinated with finding my birth mother, especially my birth mother, more than my birth father. Mm-hmm. And I had, you know, started to write letters to the adoption agencies, or the one that I had been adopted from. And I just would get rejection letter after rejection letter because my birth mother had not contacted them. So if she had contacted them and said she's interested in finding me, then they would have made the match. Mm. So, you know, just growing up with, first of all, feeling rejected and abandoned, mm-hmm. and then trying to pursue finding my birth mother and having that, you know, that sense of she doesn't care about me, mm-hmm. she just gave me up and went on with her life, mm-hmm. was really difficult for me. Mm-hmm. And then after college, I decided to hire a private investigator who then went on to find my birth mother, and we met, and the relationship continued on from there.
Awesome.
So yeah,
That's
there's
great.
a lot more to the story.
Yeah. You have to read about it. Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about your book?
Right. So I wrote this book. It's called The Missing Link, and how I got the title was I did find my birth mother, and mm-hmm. when we first reunited, she made a cake for me, and it said, "Stacy, welcome home, missing link." So that's the title. But I wrote this book primarily for adoptees because I want them to know that as an adoptee myself, you know, it's not always, my journey anyway wasn't a very, you know, perfect story. So I wrote this book because I want adoptees to know that, you know, it's great to pursue finding your birth parents if that's what you want to do, but you have to be ready to accept the rejection, or that things may not be exactly as you mm-hmm. hoped it would be. Because when I pursued finding my birth mother, I thought she would be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, in my head, I thought, oh my gosh, I can't wait to meet her. She's going to be so well. But you know, no one's perfect, mm-hmm. right? And so I came to find that out, and then I eventually found out that I had half siblings. 6 of them, actually. Wow. Yeah, and so, which was great. We have a great relationship.
Yeah.
All 6 of my siblings and myself.
That's great.
So it turned out to be happy in the end, mm-hmm. but I really wrote it because I want other adoptees to be able to relate to it. And then even for adoptive parents or who are looking to adopt, I want them to know from an adoptee's perspective, mm-hmm. you know, what we feel and what we go through, mm-hmm. and again, even though I had the most loving family, I still had that need to find my birth parents.
Right, yeah. Of
Yeah.
course, that's great. And where can you find your book?
So my book right now is on sale at Amazon and Walmart, Barnes and Noble,
Okay, great.
and also internationally. I just found out
Oh, wow.
they're selling it in London and Switzerland.
Wow,
Yeah, I started
awesome.
getting book sales in in Europe and elsewhere, and I was
Wow.
like, "Well, how's this happening?"
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So-
And do you remember, like, what was the moment that you decided that you were going to write your book?
Yeah, actually. So I was getting my hair cut, and I was telling my hairstylist about how I was adopted, and she said, you should really write a book. This is like a Hallmark story, because of all the ups and downs and everything. And so I thought, well, I was a journalism major. I love to write.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and so I thought, okay, well, now's the time, I guess. Now that my life has come full circle, and I know who my birth mother, my birth father, and my siblings are. So I went ahead and wrote the book.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
And it only took about 6 months.
Oh, wow.
I
Nice.
literally just poured out as I was
when you're
writing
about
it.
yourself, it's
Yeah.
a bit easier. Awesome. And what's one thing that you'd like the adoption community to know?
Gosh, one thing is just to be, it depends whether I'm talking to adoptees or adoptive parents, but for adoptees, just be open to whatever, there is if you decide to search for your birth parents. And know that it could be good or bad or whatever, but just be open to that. And that's all part of the experience and the journey if you decide to pursue it. To adoptive parents, just be open and with your children from a very young age. Like, I was very thankful that my parents were open about it and they didn't keep it a secret. And so I grew up knowing that I was adopted and that it was okay. And so that's what I would, that's my advice to adoptive parents.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll be learning more about Stacy and her experience on May 31st, and people in the community will have opportunity to ask questions as well. So stay tuned for more information about that.